Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, spokeswoman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I will take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Please put your questions in the chat of this Zoom with your name and your outlet. It is Sunday, October 19th, and today is the 744th day Hamas has continued to hold on to our hostages inside of the Gaza Strip. It has been 6 days since the return of our 20 living hostages. Some of their stories are now emerging, accounts that are harrowing, deeply disturbing, and impossible to ignore. Let me share with you some of this testimony shared with the Prime Minister by these hostages. Survivors describe being locked in cages for nearly 2 years, held alongside corpses, fed only spoonfuls of rice, kept in near total isolation. Many suffered untreated injuries, beatings, malnourishment, with some even losing up to 40% of their body weight. Arms and legs bound for extended periods of time. These are not exaggerations. They are the lived experiences of our hostages. As Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, the horrors inflicted by Hamas prove that we have not moved beyond the barbarism of the past. He has called Hamas monsters, and the testimony of our returned hostages tragically affirms this. Hamas's beliefs, methods, and its goals are the annihilation of the State of Israel and its citizens and its supporters. This is why the framework makes very, very clear that Hamas can have no future in running the Gaza Strip. I want to just show some video on the screen behind me. You'll probably notice that there is silence of the ceasefire now and the free Gaza voices across the world. They are silent as the ceasefire continues into the second week. The people of Gaza find themselves captives, as like our hostages, to Hamas itself. In recent days, pay attention to the credible reports and video evidence of Hamas executing civilians in Gaza, men with their hands tied, blindfolded, and shot in public in the back of the head. These are not actions of a resistance, very clearly so. They are the acts of a terror regime enforcing absolute control for those who do not comply with their Islamist jihadi beliefs. The international community must recognize what we are dealing with here, a violent jihadist organization that not only targets Israelis, but terrorizes its own people. Just take a look at all of this on the screen behind me, beating people with a circle of people surrounding them in a city right here. Now, the government released this video of armed masked men dragging Gazans and then beating them. We want to know where the outrage is and why this has not made headlines across the world. Where are the UN resolutions that demanded an end to the violence and the emergency sessions calling for Hamas to end its reign of terror? The silence speaks louder than words here. Today, the IDF announced terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and gunfire towards our troops operating in the area of Rafah to dismantle terrorist infrastructure, all in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. Now, in response, the IDF began striking in the area to eliminate the threat. Just before I came on here, we actually released a statement following Hamas's violation of the ceasefire that the Prime Minister held a consultation with the Defense Minister and the heads of the security establishment and instructed them to act forcefully against terrorist targets inside of the Gaza Strip. Now, as this savagery continues, so does our fight for the release of our deceased hostages. The 72-hour window, which Hamas agreed to under President Trump's plan that we're currently in, has expired, where the terror group was supposed to release all of our hostages at one time. It has expired by a week now. Now, just this morning, the Prime Minister demanded the release of all 16 of our hostages' remains that are in Gaza still. Over the weekends, Hamas released the bodies of 3 of our deceased hostages. Eliyahu Margalit, who was feeding his beloved horses on Kibbutz Nir Oz on the morning of October 7th, when he was murdered and his body was kidnapped into Gaza. And Ronen Engel, who was murdered while his family was in their home. He was defending them from terrorists that infiltrated their house on Kibbutz Nir Oz on the morning of October 7th. And just this afternoon, the body of a Thai hostage, Sontai Okarsri, was also identified. He was murdered on the morning of October 7th while in the orchards of Kibbutz Be'eri. His body was later kidnapped into the Gaza Strip. Now, may their memories forever be a blessing. Hamas knows where our hostages are located inside of the Gaza Strip. We are aware that when Hamas feels the pressure from Israel and the United States, they start to return more of our hostages' remains. Let's reiterate the facts here. Hamas is required to uphold its commitments to the mediators, including President Trump, to return our remaining hostages as part of this agreement. The Prime Minister has made it abundantly clear there will be no compromise and Israel will spare no effort until all of our fallen hostages are home. There are 16 more hostages that need to be returned. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu submitted for government approval today the permanent name of this war as the War of Redemption, in Hebrew known as Milchemet Hatkuma. It was approved by the government. It comes as Israel marks 2 years since a terrible disaster, where we remember how we started in times of tragedy and how we rose up dramatically on our feet, dynamically, and returned intensive war to our enemies. The Prime Minister said last night in an interview here in Israel that Israel removed the existential threat of the Iranian axis from the Jewish state as Israel broke the deadly chokehold Iran tried to create here, establishing this national redemption project in the land of Israel and our strong and flourishing state. Prime Minister Netanyahu said